That was me trying to look cheeky. Yeah, see, I'm getting a whole lot of errors from Twitch right now. Not good. Not good at all.
Well, we shall have to power through and rely on the YouTubes.
I guess we will. Hopefully everyone can see this okay. Hopefully. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Betty?
Well, I can, but I'm possibly not the person that needs to. There's probably others out there that are somewhat interested.
Maybe. I could be so lucky. If you can hear me...
Lucky, I should be so lucky. No, okay,
if you can hear me, type goldfish in chat, because that'll help.
So you actually have to have a chat to do this, because my chat's still not playing nicely over here.
Well, I see IRL. This is how we pronounce the name.
You see more than I do.
Yes, and there I hear. I'll see. Apparently, can hear me, and we're apparently offline, not doing anything, which is great. But IRL can definitely hear us, which is good. Good news for all. Maybe not for some, but for most. But yes, interesting. Getting all kinds of strange stuff here. Massive amounts of drops, everything. This will be a bad show if I can't fix this. If you want to just power through, we'll power through, but it might be a little disruptive. But yes, go ahead.
So, are we live and visible? Are people out there in the ether? And what's on the menu for today? Well, it's horizontal versus vertical. To what degree that's going to... Vertigal. I invented a new word there. Did you like
did! This? I was wondering if it had anything to do with goldfish. Vertigils.
No, maybe not. We should probably enter that into a dictionary submission somewhere for new words. I could do a Salman Rushdie, just make them up as you go along and get a Booker Prize. It worked for him.
Yes,
anyway.
But you're not as famous as he is.
Well, he wasn't that famous before he did that, but that's another matter.
Oh, fair enough.
Horizontal versus vertical. Well, what do we mean? We're talking about gating, we're talking about progression, we're talking about gameplay styles, we're talking about attitudes from developers. But first of all, we probably need to define things just a little bit.
Now, before we go too far into our actual topic, we need to hit news and other stuff. I see what you're trying to do. You wanted to start the debate early, don't you? I am on to you.
I'm moving straight into the horizontal show topics. The vertical ones can wait until later.
Ooh, don't make me smack you. Oh, man, I really should have come over to the studio tonight. Oh, I could just literally reach over and bop you on the back of your head.
We'll probably do that for the big Pantheon episode.
Yeah, I'll probably go over next Monday to be at the studio. So yeah, you guys are hearing it here. Wasn't going to mention it till a little bit later, but yes, next week on Monday we have Pantheon Rise of the Fallen. They're coming back, and we have something really, really special planned, which means I'm actually going to be in the offices Monday night, which means you will see me and Mizpah together in the same place, getting on a show.
Save me.
Creepy. But anyway, besides that, actually getting on to things that are more topically oriented, the news. See, Gazimov, I have decided for our Cosmotronic shows, he's always going to have something different for news. Always going to have to pick some. Stop it. But yes, for those who missed last week, we did have, or not last week, but last week was really nasty. We kind of had a very bad Chua, chewing on some things. And we also had somehow Chua got together with a gnome engineer and created probably one of the biggest messes I think I have ever seen. And that is why we didn't have a show last week. But the week before that, we did have an interview with Brad McQuaid and Salem Green. Grant. You're going to want to go check that out before the show.
It's obviously his half brother, cousin, something like that.
It's colorful. But yes, and obviously I want to say thank you to you all for showing up, especially considering Twitch seems to be being a little awkward today. So if you miss anything, remember you can check us out on YouTube at YouTube/MMOBuff. Now for the news. Mizpah hasn't done his hair.
Nope, that is the news.
I
did attempt to do my hair, but I did not have enough time to do my hair. It would have involved probably industrial strength hair product, which sadly they haven't yet made for hair of this wild nature. So you just have me. I'm afraid you'll have to live with it.
Yes, and then you also have me with my hoodie up today because I am absolutely freezing. So This is the hoodied version of Swagzilla. But anyway, the real news. EverQuest's next landmark. This has come out into alpha. This is huge. They've actually removed NDA on it and just said, go forth and do what you want. It's actually produced already its own music video that has impacted the game itself, which is hysterical. For those of you who have not had a chance to see it, there is this epic video, and I will make certain to put this. I don't have it in the notes that we have today because I just remembered it, but there's this music video that someone wrote about getting gnarled wood and constantly needing gnarled wood. And then they made a change in the latest patch for the alpha that actually decreased how much gnarled wood you needed. But still, the fact that, they've lifted it is pretty awesome. And a lot of people I know are playing it. Several people are having a hell of a lot of fun. I haven't had a chance to check it out yet, so I can't make too much comment on it.
It's a bit of a mishmash for me, this one, because a lot of respect and time for Monsieur Smedley. His stance on open development, the stuff he's doing, the way he's really being a vocal mouthpiece in the most positive way and saying, this is what I think, interacting with players in the community, and then changing stuff on the fly.
Yeah.
I mean, as he said in one of his tweets the other day, his PR team must hate him because they have this great plan and they know what they're going to do and they're organized, and then he says something and they're not going to do that anymore whatsoever from that point onwards. But it has led to a little bit of a disconnect.
Yes.
If I put my press hat on, probably a good idea to hide the hat hair.
You think?
We were supposed to get things at a certain point in time. There was supposed to be an NDA. Things have all changed, so it leaves some people ahead of the curve, some people behind the curve. Hey, plans change, we roll with it. But I like their stance. I like the openness. I just wish the left hand were a little more joined up with the right hand from time to time.
I can understand that. I mean, it's definitely an interesting stance to take when it comes to anything that has to do with the fact that a lot of major AAA titled games, etc., tend to have a PR company that deals with a lot of what we're actually going to say, what we're not going to say, that kind of a thing. And then you have the developers who are all like, yeah, but and the PR companies, no. I mean, you have the complete opposite with what's occurred with Tessa. You have these weekend betas that are going out within Tessa, and it is almost mum's the words with the stuff that's going on there. Although there have been recently, as I adjust my feet,
there's approved press as well.
There's approved. Yeah, there are some approved people who are actually talking about the game, etc. And it's a mixed bag. But they have a lot more closed system to what they're doing, and that's another part of the news is the fact that Tesso is currently, although it's now I think just simply being called ESO as the Elder Scrolls Online instead of the Elder Scrolls Online. But I kind of like Tesso because there's a t and it makes me think of drum. But anyway, so we have those particular things as news. As a reminder to everybody, if you are following WildStar, don't forget to watch our Friday shows on Cosmotronic, but also remember, not only do you get to see game mechanics with streaming, which we'll be doing, by the way, Thursday nights, as well as sporadically. We're going to have quite a few of our team members just bouncing onto the stream and streaming WildStar. So, make certain you are following us so that you can catch up on that.
You may even find me doing some after the show, but that's another story.
Really?
Possibly.
Really?
Maybe.
If you see Mizpah doing it, feel free to watch and poke fun at him. But when I go to stream, support me. Team Pseudo. But anyway, don't forget that there is a lot more on their website than just information about the game. In specific, they have Tales from Beyond the Fringe, which is their webcomic series, which is
awesome.
A treat. And they're starting to release new bits of it. So go forth and actually read the stuff that you find there. Now, for the last bit of news, which actually has to do in MMO-wise with World of Warcraft. Have you seen the infographic, Mizpah?
I believe the one from a week or two ago when it first came out, everything that's happened to date in World of Warcraft. Yeah, awesome.
The numbers
was scary numbers. Big, fat, scary numbers.
It is big numbers, but we know that there's been a decline. I'm wondering what impact Warlords of Draenor is really going to have on these numbers.
I'm gonna stick my neck on the block and actually say that Draenor's going to be very good for them. they've turned the tiller a little bit in terms of mindset, and Blizzard is a big ship. It takes a long time for it
This
to
is
turn
very,
around.
very true. You can't just on a dime
And I
turn.
think the changes that we're going to see in Warlords really started 12 months, 18 months ago. It takes a long, long time for them to permeate through the culture of a company.
Right.
There's a lot of changes afoot. We know that Ghost has gone. We know that other things are happening there. But they seem to be taking a few steps closer to the vanilla roots. And to me, those vanilla roots are good things. And we'll probably get into what WoW's done in its decision making when we start talking about vertical progression in a moment. Because the whole debate of accessibility versus lower bar of entry versus linear vertical progression and all that jazz all comes into play here. Blizzard have done very, very good things in the past. I think I wouldn't be alone in saying they haven't been at their sparkling best in recent history within Warcraft. Please note that caveat.
Yeah.
But I am forecasting a return to some very, very good gameplay. Something that I'm personally quite looking forward to.
Your puns.
Why the shaky head?
Your puns. They just need to stop. He's done another Blizzard forecast, people.
That was a subtle pun.
Subtle. Yeah. Yeah. So basically, those
I can
are
do
your
subtle, like a brick.
Those are part of your news blocks. As a reminder to people, MMOs are growing, which is one of the reasons, as a topic, is one of the reasons why we do what we do, is because there's so much stuff out there. Don't forget to look on Kickstarter for some of the other ones that are actually ticking around as well. There is this really interesting game, and now I can't remember, Anus Noxus or something like that. Oh my gosh, that I wanted to tackle.
Mortalis Noxus?
No, that is Ico's Guild. Very nice
that's
try. No, but it is literally the biggest strategy game ever.
Yeah,
and
I think I might have backed that accidentally the other day.
How do you accidentally back something?
Well,
you have to click OK multiple times.
I have this condition where I'm forced to click OK multiple times. It's a medical condition. There's nothing I can do about it.
That explains quite a bit. Are you on your medication, Mizpah? Yes, he is, obviously. But yes, there are things out there for MMOs, and it is interesting to see that some MMOs, like Pantheon, are choosing to go targeted instead of I will solve all the problems for all the people. So these are things that we will be discussing. But tonight, as I said, in the red corner, ding, 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 we have Mizpah, who weighs 94 pounds, soaking wet, and is usually completely soaking wet in wine or really expensive cognac. And in the blue corner, I'm trying to say you're a lush. In the blue corner, we have Lopzilla, Swagzilla, and the Pseudo. God. What I need to do for the YouTube is just put in little ding ding sound effects from the bell in the red corner. Ding ding. But anyway, I won't do that. That's just too much work. But yes, and tonight, one of the things that we're going to be looking at is actual two different things, really. The play style between horizontal and vertical gaming in an MMO. Whether it impacts the player, how it impacts the player, how it can impact the game, how it can even impact design cycles as well. And then the second thing is we're going to look at gating. Can it be applied to both? If so, how? Why you want to do that? And again, its impact on what happens. So before we go too far, let us define horizontal progression and vertical progression and our opinions, because we started to talk about this and we're like, well, yeah, that kind of is, but I disagree with your definition. We're just like, but you're wrong. You're wrong.
I think we can both agree on the concept of vertical gameplay. You build this big skyscraper, you start in the basement, and as you improve, or your gear improve, or your skills improve, or your talents improve, or your time invested in the game improves, you work your way vertically up through the levels. The classic paradigm is there within WoW. You get to a certain level, you get to end game, you knock over a boss, you go into a dungeon, you knock something over, you get some shiny kit that makes you more powerful, plus to stats, plus to knocking over a bigger, badder boss. So you go into a little raid and you knock over a bigger, badder boss, and eventually, if you're lucky and the DKP or the loot rolls favor you, you manage to put some of this little more shinier, more plus to stats, you go up another level, so to speak, and on you go on this treadmill.
What about PvP?
PvP actually has some very, very similar elements. Now, you can argue, probably correctly, that the skill delimiter in PvP has significant impact. However, and we have to talk generically here because the state of the game continually changes in WoW.
Well, not just
where you
WoW,
get to
in
things
most
like
games.
most games, but where you get to things like resist gear or other elements, you can introduce a hard cap on certain gear being needed. I'm trying to think of the previous, I believe, now defunct PvP stat in WoW.
Resilience?
I would say, thank you. I would say prompt to the channel, but A, Pseudo's already answered it, and B, I still can't see the channel because Twitch is being Twitch.
How dare you, Twitch? But anyway, go ahead.
So be aware, if anyone's furiously typing at me, I can't see you. Pseudo will have to translate.
I will try to.
But with things like resilience, again, a hard gear level's been put in place, whereby if you don't have certain stats, certain resilience, certain gear in that ilk, that iteration of the game, you would struggle against someone that did. So whereas the skill delimiter can minimize that deficit, so to speak, there is still an introduction of a gear requirement, I would argue. So PvP, I'd say yes, vertical progression. People keep running battlegrounds, people keep trying to collect their tokens, people want to get up to the shiniest stuff, people want to hit 2100 in arenas, or 2200, whatever the gear cap is for getting the gladiator stuff. It's still there, it's just a little bit more masked.
Okay. So, in my opinion, when it comes to vertical progression is your character gains things as it levels in order to be the ultimate quote-unquote of your particular class. You have to max out all the stuff, whether it be best in slot gear through raiding or PvP. Makes a difference what choice you make. You still want best in slot. And you still have limitations as to what abilities you can gain access to based on your levels. So there is that. There is the skills. There's the talent trees and everything else. It's all about going as tall as you can, as you were talking about with your little analogy of a giant building with you starting in the basement. Someone needs to make an MMO like that. That would be hysterical.
I don't think we disagree that much. In fact, wasn't there an anime, a film or an anime, 99th Floor, where weird things happened in this building? Anyway.
103rd.
Whatever it was. Vague memory. Vague receptor firing in the brain. I don't think we differ that much, do we really?
Not vertical? That one. In vertical, you and I both pretty much agree. It's a matter of to take your character and make it grow. And the only way you can grow is up.
Be better by doing stuff. But I want to pause this topic to come back to in a moment. I dare say we need to go on and do what is horizontal and what is gating. But just for in a few moments' time, I want to point out there are multiple forms of vertical progression. But we'll come back to that one.
And here's where the debate starts.
Horizontal gameplay.
Ah, yes, horizontal gameplay.
I'm not about to plank on the desk while you describe this, but
horizontal
gameplay.
Go on and plank. Go on and plank. You know you want to.
I would, but I'd so damage this nice mixing desk here.
Yeah, let's not put Mizpah horizontal unless I'm knocking him out. All right, sorry. I don't really mean violence to my co-hosts. I really don't. When it comes to horizontal content,
what I have to live with here.
You're not living with it. Just wait till next week when we're both in the same place. Then you'll see what's happening. Okay. Let's see. Oh, just so that you know, Vistom, who accidentally came in under Ladies of the Round Table. Hi, guys. Both Ladies of the Round Table and Vistom said that he misses resist gear in WoW. He knows the full... Do you remember the full nature resist set for AQ40?
Hurahan.
Yeah. Oh man, I still remember farming to craft for Molten Core resist gear. God, that was a pain in the rear.
Many hours spent for one of the most trigger-happy fights you'll ever find. I liked it. but I was very much in the minority, it must be said.
And then IRL says, if you eat too much, you grow horizontal, though, which is important to keep in mind. And then Vistom says, you have things like Zelda, Ocarina of Time. Good game. Which literally has no levels, no achievements. And then you've also got other games out there that are sort of sandboxy. There is actually, and I have an alpha account to it, an MMO that is pure 100% sandbox. Pure sandbox. And it is very much so horizontal content. Now, we were debating about how horizontal content itself is really, it's not about how tall you go, but just really the expansive part of what's available to you to play. And this is where Mizpah made his comment, and we'll start digging out. There's different types of horizontal content. But when it comes to vertical content is what you said, not horizontal. I'm going to get my terms mixed up as to what's up and what's down. But anyway, the x-axis and the y-axis.
What about that diagonal content, Pseudo? How's that coming along?
That is what most MMOs try to do. They try to find some kind of hybrid in between, and it doesn't always work. But there are horizontal games where it's not a matter of you climbing the levels. It's not a matter of you getting necessarily the best in slot, period. It's a matter of finding all the different things around you and using them to your advantage, whatever they may be it the golden pickaxe of doom or the spell of I knock over boulders. You know, there is a big difference. It's not a matter of, am I at the max level? It's, you know, have I, we'll say, explored enough to gain access to enough stuff? And yes, you do have those things back. Interesting. Suliko says, is the vertical gating also the amounts you see at end level, like going into WoW ICC? Looking for raid has now removed that. I always wanted to be able to see end content, but didn't until the next expansion pack. After living through LFR and getting what I wanted, I don't like it. I felt I didn't need to try hard to get to the end. Now, we'll get into that because that is a soapbox that I want to prevent going underneath Mizpah right now. I really, really do. What I will state is when it comes to horizontal content, it's a matter of being expansive enough that you don't feel you're living in a linear world of the only thing you can do is go up. And that to me is kind of interesting. It means that I may be able to run around in the world, find a tome that allows me to cast Fireball of purple, glowy, sparkly awesomeness, aka I have the fireball in the shape of our hexaphone logo. And then, you know, we're running around and Mizpah may find it in a completely different part of the world and be able to use it. But because of the fact that I purposely, you know, found the dye that turns my armor purple, I may get a bonus because I'm using the purple hexaphone. Whereas he may only have red dye, and that, I mean, it's a matter of finding what you can and not being limited by going by level, but literally just expansion and exploration. That to me is more horizontal, which makes it more sandboxy in a lot of ways.
I'm actually quite liking OC's definition. Vertical gating sounds...
I swear you and I are going to duke it out one day, and if you mispronounce his name in my presence, I will hit you.
It's a good job I can move faster than you. So, OC said, vertical gating sounds like the next instant stroke raid in the progression, whilst horizontal sounds like the diversity of choice at the plateau, the one you're currently on. Is that about right? And yeah, actually, that's pretty much there for my money.
That's where you and I started to get into a huge debate about this, because
there is a couple of things to elaborate on just before we get into that debate. However, on really what the purpose is of that horizontal progression. Is it simply a choice of what you do, or a choice in terms of the viable ways in which you can do it? And I'll point you to two things. Probably the best example in terms of diversity of choice, in terms of methodology. A game which I'll be shot now for saying I'm not the world's biggest fan of. I can appreciate it as a fantastic game, but it doesn't push my buttons, and that's Skyrim. In Skyrim, I can be a stabby character. I can be a stealthy character. I can be a bow character. I can be a character that noms on dragons for breakfast and runs away from bears. Well, that's actually everybody in Skyrim.
I will shoot you in the knee.
Yes, I'm sure I'll take an arrow in the knee at some point. Thank you very much, Pseudo. But I would describe that game as having huge amounts of horizontal choice.
I would
huge
agree
amounts
with
of
that.
horizontal progression.
I
Because
agree
you
with
can
that.
do tons of things.
I would also
But it
argue that
suffers
a
from
big
the
part of
same-
I would argue a big part of that is not necessarily by default, but by the add-ons that you can add to the game. But that's a whole
Quite
different
possibly.
topic.
But it suffers from the common flaw of many vastly horizontal systems, in that there has to be a point attached.
That's the story. See, this is where the debate started between Miz and I, guys, and this is the thing. When you have a game that is very open boxed, sandboxed, etc., and you can just basically go forth and explore and discover things, maybe find that gun that you were looking for, or that bow, or that magic spell, or that piece of armor, just by going out and exploring and letting yourself use that. Yet, this is where we started to debate about the gating side of things, because honestly, by going out and doing things like that, you are freely setting your own goals.
But let's just take your example.
You have specifically said before we started this show that games like Minecraft and Skyrim, you can't play them, even though I was saying they're a version of horizontal expansion to some extent, or horizontal progression, although in all honesty there is a bit more to it than that. There is a little bit of vertical in each of them, but you know, it is more make your choices, make your decisions, etc. Bless you, sir. And you said,
did I not catch that in time? My apologies.
No, you did. I just happened to notice your whole head go down and I can kind of read body language. But what ends up happening is you don't like a game where you as an individual cannot compete against other people and show, look at my badassness because I took down this raid boss and I got this piece of loot. Or look at my badassness, I've succeeded in this particular PvP match. Or look at me, I've got these achievements. You look for competition in a game, whereas most of the time in sandboxes,
but also a sense of personal progress and markers along the way.
You want
me,
the game. You want the game to tell you what the stats are you are supposed to go for. You want the game to tell you the goals. Whereas some of us like making our own goals, like going after our own thing. I mean, we were debating about building a log house in Minecraft, and he's like, I've built a log house. I'm like, yeah? He's like, well, what's next? I said, you built a bloody log house. Now you make a decision. Do you want it to go taller? Do you want it to go wider? Do you want to go deeper? Do you want to have a spawning pool? I mean, there's so much you do. You make the choices.
But
you make the goals.
Why do I want these things? That's the missing bit of the equation. I can go out and I can get the spell of flashing fingertips. But if the spell of flashing fingertips isn't going to help me kill Alduin more easily than just having a big bad boomstick, why bother?
You do realize that in Minecraft you build houses to keep zombies from eating your brains, right?
Yes. But I'm just talking in general terms. If I can go out and do something in another fashion, other than the fact that I like the animation, other than the fact that I think it's cool, if it doesn't allow me to do something I couldn't otherwise do, what's the point?
Wow. You are very limited in your mindset. The point is, you come up with the purpose behind it. Fun. Now here, this is the thing. We have an episode coming up in
3 weeks.
2 weeks from now, we're discussing challenges. 3 weeks from now, maybe. It depends on the timing and how we do this, because that topic is going to be huge. But I'm going to make you take a test. But there is an actual...
Is there a score?
There is, actually. And I can't wait to see you try to compete.
Now there's a point.
No, the score reveals things, Mizpah. It reveals things about motivation. Your personal choice of fun is to have a game tell you exactly what is required to show you are quote-unquote exceptional at what you do. That is your definition of fun. That is not everybody's definition of
Mhm.
fun. Some people's definition of fun, and I will speak for myself under a Minecraft thing, is being able to go in and build massive buildings that you can see from the other side of the map that are awe-inspiring, beautiful pieces of artwork and landwork because I mix together different blocks with different woods to create textured and varied effects, which are stunning to look at. So, that to me can be fun. So can running around and getting those spells of wiggly fingers and sparkly fingers of doom, because I've achieved that by just getting the spell. But this is where the difference lies between you and I. I have no problem with tedium. You do.
Yet some people would say that being on a raiding treadmill is tedious. Yet I don't find it so in the slightest.
And neither do I.
So there we go.
We have to meet at some point, otherwise we wouldn't be in the same place. But
let's jump back.
I was going to jump into the chat.
Indeed, we want to pick up on what's being said, but maybe we need to do one more definition before we go to that.
Gating.
Gating.
Mm.
So we've talked about horizontal, and we've talked about being a diversity of choice in how you do something, going and doing things in 10 different ways. Mm-hmm. Again, there's points to come back on that. We've talked about vertical as being this skyscraper-esque progression as you move your way through power levels or whatever it might be you're using to keep score. Maybe that's the key point. Maybe in vertical it's because we have a clearly defined methodology for keeping score.
I think that's pretty much what it is.
But gating.
Mm-hmm.
So gating at its strictest sense is someone saying, when you walk down this path, this gate is going to be shut. And until you do X, this gate is not going to be open. Therefore, you may not proceed down the path. You get to stand there and wait for the gate to be opened.
Mm-hmm.
What does it mean in game terms? Well, I've run around, I've hit level 54 in some strange game where 54 is end level. And I want to go on the first raid. But it tells me that I can't go on the first raid until I shake the hand of the Ubbity Flibbity Gibbet. But the Ubbity Flibbity Gibbet actually lives inside a dungeon that I haven't yet completed. But to get into the dungeon, I need to do a quest so I can get the key to Umwolf's abode, where the dungeon is. So I have to go and do the quest to get the key to Umwolf's abode, to go through the dungeon, to be able to get someone to shake the hand of the Flibbity Gibbet. And that took me a week, because it's really tough. And then I got to open the gate and go through. And that's gating. Do we agree? Do we disagree?
Not everything has to deal with Flippity Gibbet, but in this particular case, I'll let you have that because I think that's actually a really good way of exempling it, although some people are going to get lost in your diatribe there, because the reality is it's just simply you can't get to X until you have completed Y. That's all it is.
And sometimes Ys.
Sometimes
lots of Ys linked together.
Well, sometimes it's Y, Z, and then PDQ. I mean, it makes no difference. It's just there is something that limits you from going further. Now,
and bring back long linked series of quests, because they were fantastic at doing this, and in my part, they are sorely missed.
Yeah. For example, the Onyxia quest line, or
That's the one I was thinking of.
or the long epic one to get the quintessential tears to put out the fires in Molten Core. That was fun. Talk about a bit of a grind with a hell of a quest.
I still have an awful lot of rep with those guys, but that's another story.
Yeah, well, you have issues with them. God.
So gating.
Yes, gating itself.
Why is it there? So what we've said what gating is. Gating is a means of saying.
I think you need to modify that question. You need to modify the question. You need to ask, what is gating and its purpose in an MMO? Okay. And the reason why I say that is because I think gating in other games may have similar attributes, but the reality is gating within an MMO can be not just about preventing someone from progressing a story until the latest patch comes out or whatever, but it could actually be something that is done to put people at a equal level. For example, no one could tackle on Courage until the entire server worked together to make something occur. I mean, that was
an unusual but a fantastic example.
Yeah, an unusual but a fantastic one. Absolutely.
As Screen said, I actually want to get to this in a moment, Screen, and it was one of my next things to move on to, that there's multiple types and forms of gating.
And vertical content. Horizontal content has its own style of gating.
We'll let you elaborate on that one in a moment, Pseudo.
Another debate we had pre-show. I'm telling you, blue corner, red corner.
So, why is gating there before we move on to different types? You could take the cynical view. The cynical view is it's there to slow down consumption of content. MMO players are content locusts. The more time you can actually make people spend consuming content, the more time there is to spend developer cycles producing content. Therefore, the longer you can have someone keeping subscribing, therefore the longer you can have their engagement in the game, therefore the more time you have to produce that new content, therefore increasing their engagement and time spent in the game, and I could go on this loop for quite some time. But in short, it's maximizing subscriber revenues over time through retention, based on continually setting new goals for achievement, within which you can extend the time required to achieve them to get closer and closer to development cycles and the creation of content.
I think everyone in chat at this current moment at this moment in time, needs to open up their calendars, needs to put a stamp on the day as the day that Pseudo actually agrees with something that came out of Mizpah's mouth. Now, to be fair, I do agree with some of the things you say, though we just have very differing concepts of things. The Warlock mount, Paladin mount from our various people in the chat. But yes.
But there are also some others.
There are some other reasons for gating. I mean, you could easily throw out it's to help developer control. It really is. I mean, one of the biggest things we talked about, and this goes back to like one of our first episodes of this show, actually, and we were talking about and defining what an MMO is. MMOs are not supposed to end. They're not. You know, you're not supposed to get to the point where you kill off we'll say Hellscream Grash and, you know, the game ends. You get title credits and, you know, you get to start a new character. It's not like that. It is supposed to be a living, persistent world. But in order to have one...
Was it only me that once upon a time watched the film Never-Ending Story and was surprised to find the end credits?
Falcor!
Just throwing it out there.
Okay, so... Why am I not surprised? God, you made me lose my train of thought, you evil, evil, evil man.
Not even
yes, living persistent worlds is what makes an MMO an MMO.
Yep.
Period. And in order to have a living persistent world, you need to give the developers time to develop. I mean, when you have the engine built, when you have the story built, when you have the mechanics relatively down-packed to the point where every patch all you're doing is tweaking things, which is what mostly happens in a lot of individual patches. When you have something like that, you're then starting to input other things like, you know, we'll build another portal that people can walk through and discover something new or what have you, but you need to give the developers time to do it. I don't think, though, that that is the only reason why.
No, I mean, you've actually got a number of sociological reasons attached to gating. The way you would put more time and investment and effort into achieving something, even through repetitive tasks, there is an innate sense of achievement, fulfillment, and buy-in to the process, which again leads to long-term subscriber revenue and satisfaction.
So what happens when you get a game that is actually free to play? And you don't ever buy anything? How does that revenue work for you?
Well, what they tend to do is introduce tons of quality of life improvements to try and get you to subscribe, to increase your quality of life, but that's a whole nother mechanism.
That's Tor. That's different.
And in some cases, Lotro, they drive you away from the game, because even with a lifetime sub, you do not want to stare at the adverts or feel that you're inefficient the whole time, because you don't have 110% crafting rep every single time you make something. But that's another rant for another show.
Yes, it's particular, considering I was about to go on to something about a particular game that'll be coming out that will only allow you to respect if you pay in-game money, even though it actually has a subscription fee already. Yeah. Anyway.
We shall see what I think about that. Do we need to touch on different types of gating?
You can definitely touch on different types of gating, because there are literally different types. I will throw out for my own, because in all honesty, Horizontal gating is easy. You can gate things through storyline, not letting people progress to certain areas until they've completed a storyline. Doesn't mean that they're going to get XP and level, but you can. It has been done. You're not convinced,
that
but it
touches
has
on the
been
definition
done.
of horizontal gating.
It gates. Because to complete quests, to complete storylines, you have to do other things.
Before we move on, let's look at the types of gating that exist, and then let's see where we can apply them to horizontal, shall we?
Let's see if you can get that in 7 minutes.
I'm sure I can talk for more than 7 minutes, but that's not what you mean.
No. I actually want content in your answer, not just
content in my answer. Types of gating. What might we actually have? First of all, you can have gating through typical character progression. You must be level 40 to come here. You must be level 50 to come here. Very simplistic type of gating. Secondarily, you can have gating through attunements. Attunements are typically quests, but they could also be items gained, tasks achieved, whatever it might be. Once your character or your guild has a certain flag on it, you can do this. You can then have gating via an item. Let's say a quest requires you to swim to a certain point underwater, and there's an underwater helmet that lets you breathe underwater, it lets you get there. Effectively, you can't complete that quest or task, whatever it might be, without that item. A good example, without anyone hiding behind the pillars in a very old-fashioned version of the raid, would have been Nefarian, 40-man, where you had to have the cloak from Elixir not to die horribly.
Yeah.
As we found out. And I do remember going there with a guild group where half of us were equipped and half of us weren't, and half of us were trying to hide behind the pillar and die. It didn't work very well. So we've got item gating, character gating. There is this concept simply of skill gating. Forgotten Worlds did this quite nicely with their individual tests, whereby you had to basically achieve something based on skill to be able to unlock yourself to go into further content. Actually, that was really quite nicely done. You also have the idea of a gear check, which is not tied to the actual stats on an item, but to your ability to achieve a certain task with the gear that you happen to be wearing. I.e., the higher your skill level, the lower the gear requirement for you, the individual, to meet that bar. But the lower your skill level, the more you would need to compensate with better and better gear. Simplistic examples of that would be Patchwork, would be Brutalis. The raid needs to output X, and we all know that a really good player can output X with less gear than someone else, and vice versa. And what else have we got in terms of gating? I'm sure there's one more, but that's all I can think of at the moment.
What about those glorious gates involving your talent trees where you can only get certain things after you've gotten other certain things, and you could only get those if you got other certain things? Actually, really good place to look at that is in the trade skills in WildStar.
Yes.
You cannot get certain things and certain recipes until you have completed certain things underneath that, and that is just within the tree itself. And that is that's just... Yeah, that's
particularly annoying when you get a trade skill daily, not a daily, you get a trade skill board quest to say, make me some ferrosteel blasters. Fantastic. But to make ferrosteel blasters, I need to get basic gunsmithing, which means I need to make one of every single ranged weapon first. But I don't have the items for that yet, so hey ho, what am I going to do? Am I going to do that quest? Am I going to get the benefit? Am I going to expand horizontally throughout my entire crafting schematic and tree?
Horizontal progression.
You see what I did there?
Oh, I like that. That was nice.
But no, that is actually a good example, and there's a lot of thought in that WildStar
Aussie says
implementation of that.
Boil it down to code, and gating is either a trigger or, more esoterically, a natural gate could come from player skill, thus difficulty, which isn't found in the code but in the gameplay.
I'd agree with that, but I'd actually say he's even... OC, you're possibly even more right than you're alluding to. In that, you've boiled it down to code, it's a 1 or a 0. You are flagged to do this, or you're not flagged to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And
Bullying.
Even though
Gating is bullying. No pun intended. And I'm not saying bully as in the bully, but bully-in as in true or false, 1 or 0, which is code language. So, yes, gating is bullying.
Simply put, even though player skill is more esoteric and harder to quantify, you still either achieve or don't achieve that particular standard, and therefore you're either it's a 1 or 0 again.
Mm-hmm.
So all of this makes sense to me in terms of vertical gating. You progress to a certain point, you achieve something, great, you get to carry on. You can then go and achieve more stuff you couldn't take on beforehand. Now in horizontal, we've got all these things, all these styles of gameplay. I can craft, I can hobby, I can fish, I can go explore, I can do whatever it is. But I'm still not seeing this link between progression and verticality. So Pseudo, elaborate.
Well, first off, like I said to you pre-show, just because you have a whole bunch of different types of content that a person can do does not mean it is horizontal content. I mean, you can look at WildStar and go, hey, I don't want to PvP. I'm going to go do the horizontal content of trade skills. That's still a vertical thing because you have to climb up the tree. You still have trees you need to climb.
But it's horizontal content to get to the trade skill in the first place. But I would agree that it's lots of vertical content in lots of different train lines, you know, running next to each other.
I want to apologize to anyone who can hear that alarm.
Of horizontal gating.
For everyone who heard that alarm, I do apologize. Yeah. Unfortunately, the hubby is on call, and that is his, oh my gosh, the world is ending. You must come save us now, alarm. All right, boiling it down, 1 and 0. That's gating, period. That's basically what we're boiling it down to. It's 1 and 0. You either have the ability to do it or you do not have the ability to do it based on whatever type of
I would say it's more than that. I would say it's a 1 or a 0 of have you achieved or not achieved the objective. But the purpose of achieving the objective or not achieving the objective is your license or your pass to go up to a next and harder level of content.
Okay. Whereas in horizontal, it's not a matter of necessarily going into the harder part of the content, but into another part of the content. That's what I am referring to. You know, I don't necessarily see Minecraft as an MMO, but with the relation to EQ Next Landmark, with it actually being an MMO and basically reminding me so much of Minecraft, I will throw this out there. And I am trying so hard, Screen, not to hit him for every pun he says, but it, you know, just wait till next week. I'll be at the offices next week, and then we'll see. But anyway. In horizontal content, it is a matter of can you have access to this or not? Can you have access to the Field of Dreams if you have not passed through the volcano of oh my goodness? It's one of those things. And that type of gating can be done in exactly the same way. You know, I get my spell fingeries, shinies of awesomeness because I've been running around looking for it. I didn't have to gain a level in order to get it. I didn't have to go through and get the achievement of shaking Flipperty Gibbet's hand. I just was happened to running around and, whoo, look, it's there. I have an idea of where it is, and I just need to go explore it, try to survive whatever the heck happens to be there, and make it happen. Whether it requires skill or me finding some extra gear or what have you, but it has nothing to do with a level. It's just a matter of the content is there.
But if you think about it in terms of, let's say, WildStar, albeit it's for a very different reason, it's to not swamp the players as they learn so many things one after the other.
I kind of agree with that. It's a matter of offering flexibility so people don't get bored, depending upon their play style, which is key. But I will throw out there.
As an example, before we lose it, in WildStar, you must get to level 10 to start crafting. But that isn't to gate the content. That's not to say you can't have access to crafting. That's to limit the new experiences and the learning elements of the game, you know, to one per level, so to speak. And you can clearly see that progression whilst you play. So would you really call that horizontal gating?
I am not talking about WildStar. And no, I don't see it as horizontal. I don't. However, thank you for interrupting me because I've lost my train of thought now.
Hopefully it's still on the tracks.
God only knows. However, unfortunately, we are coming close to the end time, so thank you. I think
I think
Mizpah
we need
just
to answer
interrupts
a
me.
key.
And I think Mizpah just wants to interrupt me so that I can't answer questions, because to do so would be like really confusing for him. To me, horizontal gating, period, is just about being able to gain access to other areas of the world. Because 9 times out of 10, horizontal is all about the world itself. It's all about being able to get over that next mountain. If that means you have to find a way to, say, I don't know, craft that extra little, whatever they call those things that you can shoot up and drag yourself up with, harpoon type things. You know, if that means you're trying to craft that, you do it, great. But you don't have to have a certain level in order to do it. You just have to go out and find the materials to make it happen. That is the difference. But because you now have this lovely little thing, you can actually climb a mountain and go to the other side and explore that now. That is another type of gating, and that's horizontal, not vertical. You cannot access it until you have done Y. That was our definition of a gate. And in my opinion, it's about literally the exploration of the world. Hence why I was relating it earlier, pre-show, to sandboxes. So that is a gate.
I don't think we quite buy into that as being, or for my part, I don't quite buy into that as fitting the purpose of a gate in terms of gameplay mechanics.
A gate has to be applied, and can only be applied to something that gets you to be better than somebody else because you have leveled up and gotten a particular piece of gear that has a certain type of challenge to it. Horizontal isn't about the challenge of being better than the other player, and I think that's the problem. You need to be better than somebody else. Doesn't work that way in horizontal. In horizontal, it's about the exploration. It's about taking your own personal abilities and going, I am going to come up together with some kind of crazy conundrum, solve this problem, make it work for me, get to the other side of that mountain, and see what happens to be over there. It's not a matter of going, look at me, I'm on the other side of this mountain, I'm better than X, Y, and Z. It has nothing to do with that. It's about finding your own personal challenges, applying your own personal goals, and then doing whatever it takes to get there, including not being able to build that sort of awesome until you've happened to shake Mr. Flippity Gibbet's hand. However, the difference is it's not about level or rep. It's not about gaining experience. It's not about being better than somebody else at all. And I think that is where we are going to have to cut it on this particular case, because this leads into what our topic is going to be for after next week.
It is, but I'd like to pose one question that I think we should answer to try and put some element of a conclusion on our randomness for tonight.
Go for it.
Is gating in an MMO desirable?
Yes.
Actually, I'm going to say yes as well.
It has to be. I think the real problem with gating that a lot of people have, it's not the fact that gating it's there. It's the type of gating that is done. That is where the real problem comes in for people. There are so many people out there who are sick and tired of the rep grind because that's all they do in World of Warcraft. They are sick of it to the point where if you want to gate content by rep, you're going to piss off somebody. Where there are other people who are like, I have no problems killing, the purple paw eater of doom 14 times a week in order to achieve my rep. That type of gating other people can be happy with. Or I don't mind killing 9,000 fire lizards so that I can get my fire resist gear. That's no problem to me. That's another. It's the way the MMO presents the gate that tends to be the problem for people. Not everyone is going to be one of those 1%ers in rating, one of those 1%ers in PvP, one of those 1%ers in trade skills, one of those 1%ers in exploring of map or what have you. And trying to balance those 1%ers with those who just log into the game and go, ooh, this is pretty, run 50 steps, kill something, log out of the game and go do something else. Trying to keep the gate so that everybody is happy is hard. So trying to find the medium is the key there.
And that's where it all becomes very, very tricky. I think gating is needed. Yeah. I think gating provides an investment in the game once you achieve that standard. It's a positive feedback loop going all the way around.
I think so.
The difficulty is adhering it to skill, competence, and capabilities. I mean, let's put a raid leader hat on for a moment.
Why
And
not?
there is... Why not? Well, we all have one. You have one as well.
Mm-hmm.
But there is nothing worse in a raid than having some individuals that perhaps are not of a suitable competence level, particularly if those individuals don't wish to learn.
Oh, that's a given.
And that drags the whole raid down. It destroys the game experience for people. And what's one of the best ways to prevent this? Skill-based gating before someone can put a foot inside that arena. It's not easy to do, but when done correctly, it allows Pseudo to sneeze live on air.
No, I muted myself. They didn't hear me, but you did.
Oh, just me. I'm lucky. I am blessed. Done well, it illustrates a degree of competence that not only says, hey, I can do something so you can keep score, so all those sociological buttons get ticked, but it also means that your interaction with others from that point forwards are going to be positive and are not going to be negative in terms of dragging other people down. Gating, for me, it's a good thing.
I agree. Just do it right. Don't put a gate in there uselessly. Yes. So that's
I think that's
gating.
a wrap.
It is almost a complete and utter wrap. And this is where I basically get to put on my hat and explain all the other stuff that's going on. I will state, by the way, guys, thank you so much for your participation in the conversation. As it is not, in case it's not obvious, Mizpah and I...
Great chat, by the way.
Mizpah and I do not always agree on things, especially when it doesn't fit his catered opinion of what something should be. And I'm like, remove that. It's not all about you. No, he's not that bad. I'm just teasing. No, but these are the kinds of discussions we're having. As a reminder, next week we have Pantheon returning. The week after that, we're discussing challenges in MMOs.
Can I just elaborate on Pantheon returning for one moment?
I will let you in just a second because I want to hit a couple of things first. For those of you who are unaware, we are currently holding a Twitter-based competition to give away 2 tickets to Rezzed. You, if you can make it there, will want to be a part of this competition. And just for fun, I will actually take the competition link that we have and I will throw it, wahaha, into chat. Congratulations. So, we have a competition going.
Awesome prize.
It is. It is absolutely amazing. In fact, you will probably run across us there. I can almost guarantee you will.
do we just get to have lunch, or do I need to cook lunch? No one's told me this one
I
yet.
haven't thrown that competition out yet. That's a completely different competition. Swagzilla is holding things close to her chest.
Oh, I thought we were combining these two together.
No,
okay.
We are not. For a reason. Because this is Twitter-based, and it's our viewers who are going to participate in the other competition, where they actually get to have lunch or dinner with us, depending on how things go. Tomorrow, we have on our Tuesday's Campfire show, Stonewill from Radiant Knights joining us. We're going to be discussing transitioning communities and guilds between games and the impact that can have on a community, especially if you can't get your guild name in a particular game or something along those lines.
That would be bad.
There are a whole bunch of side things to go along with that one. On Top Draw on Wednesday, Marsh and I are going to be digging deeply into maintaining the curve. And holy cow, you really do not want to miss that. A lot of people may go, oh, online TCGs or TCGs, not my cup of tea. You don't want to miss this because, in essence, some of the stuff we're discussing is applicable across games. So pay attention and definitely catch us on Wednesday. Thursday night is a streamathon of WildStar. As to who will be streaming,
we may even rustle up some other content that could be interesting.
Maybe. I'm not going to give anything away. To do so is to be bad. And then, of course, a Friday on our Cosmotronic show, the entire team of Ms., myself, Kai, and Gazzy are digging into all things crazy, evil, and strange in the world of WildStar. Again, they may include some things, can't say much, gotta keep my mouth shut, because I'm a good girl, unlike some people.
What's the date next Friday?
Next Friday? I don't know, actually. As I open my calendar, the 14th.
We'll have some very good stuff about one thing, but the good stuff about the other thing we'll have to wait until the next thing because of the thing that happens before the thing without breaking the rules about the
Will
thing.
you stop gating our prizes? This is why I
I'm just
don't
trying to tell
always
people
reveal
about the
what
thing.
prizes we have, because I don't want them to worry about the gating mechanics I'm implementing. You mean man. Stop revealing stuff. Anyway, what we're going
I
to
know
do...
nothing. I just go to market to buy the chili pepper.
Oh my gosh. Holy cow. Wow. I don't know why
It's
I'm
an
shocked.
intro to a song.
I know, but I don't
You
know
must
why.
know that.
I know, but I'm not. I don't know why I'm sitting here trying to think I'm shocked at you. I'm not shocked at you. I'm. This is normal. This is normal stuff. But yes, remember next week I'm actually going to be in MMOBuff Studios for a show. I'm not doing all my shows next week there because I'd have to move in with Mizpah, and I'm not doing that. No, I'd probably end up killing him after making him feed me, because he's an excellent chef. Yeah, Friday is
You might want to
Valentine's
rethink
Day.
that, actually, as someone's just, Monday you're going to be here, aren't you?
Yes,
Friday,
Monday.
we're okay.
I'll be here on the 17th. I'm not going there on the 14th. I have a husband who deserves my attention and love. Yee. But anyway, yes, so that's pretty much this. Do you want to have a post show after this? Or do you want to just say love you and leave you to the crowd?
We'll bounce back and see if the chat want to say hi on anything or pick our brains.
Sounds like a plan. So, this is Mizpah saying bye-bye.
And this is Pseudo saying toodle pip.
You're such a bastard. Actually, I don't think I got your voice right. Hello, this is Mizpah, and now I am saying goodbye. I had to sound like more like a vampire.
Not a vampire radio discourse jockey by any chance.
Yeah, trying to figure out how to put that in there. Oh. But anyway, bye-bye, everybody. We will see you very, very soon. For those of you on YouTube, you're totally missing out what happens next. Just saying. Be right back.